Hey everybody, Blaise here, and I'm in Cheshire, England, where I'm really happy to announce that we are ready to do pre-orders for my brand new course, Acting for Animation. It's a really great course. It's full, over 18 videos to show you how I approach my acting for animation. Now, as I always do, I'm really excited to let you guys watch, have a little sneak peek of one of the videos, and next week, the whole course will be available. So I hope you enjoy it, and I'll talk to you later. Bye. Okay, and so in this next video, I want to talk to you about an approach to animation. Generally, there's two approaches that we use when we're starting an animated shot. One is straight ahead animation, and a lot of times we use that for fast action. And what that means is straight ahead, it's just that I'm animating straight ahead. I'm animating one drawing after the next drawing after the next drawing. And usually, like I said, it's fast action. There's a lot going on. And so I try to feel that action as an animator and just record it drawing by drawing by drawing, straight ahead until it's done. That usually comprises probably about 30% of the shots that I would animate for an animated film, a movie. The rest of the time, I'm doing what's called pose-to-pose animation. Now, pose-to-pose animation is pretty much just that as well. It's what I would do is, well, let me back up just a little bit. I'm going to talk about the dialogue. The first thing that's done before we start to animate is the dialogue is going to be recorded with the actor. We as animators will get that piece of dialogue, if there's a piece of dialogue in the shot, we will get that dialogue, and as an animator, I'll listen to it over and over and over again until I start to see the acting, the emotion, whatever it might be in my head. Now, when I break that down, the dialogue, I start to break it down into phrases. Each phrase is an idea, okay? So, anyway, so as I listen to those phrases, each phrase, like I said, as an idea will be a pose. I'll draw a pose for it. And that pose kind of represents whatever that phrase is, the emotion. The next phrase will be a new pose. The next phrase will be a new pose. And that basically is what pose-to-pose animation is. Once I get those poses done, and usually within, in an average length shot, the shot might have maybe 3 to 4 poses in it. Now, it doesn't mean we just go pose and pose and then pose. The pose, we will animate into the pose or within the pose, out of the pose, and into the next pose. So it'll still feel like fluid animation, but rather than animating straight ahead, we're really thinking about each of these poses first, establishing those, and then connecting them with bits of animation, connective tissue, overlap, all that kind of stuff. Let me show you what I'm talking about. Recently, I got a piece of dialogue, recorded a piece of dialogue. Now, and this is a thing I want to tell you. This is a great exercise, and this is what I'm doing here. I've been going on the internet, and I look up great quotes from literature. Just, what are the top quotes from literature? And I go through some of those quotes, passages, however you want to call them. And I find ones that are great lines of dialogue. And it's really wonderful because a lot of them you can find that are change of idea, change of emotion, whatever it might be. But they're really dramatic, they're really poignant sometimes. And then I try to come up with a voice myself, someone else, whatever it might be, we record it, then I animate to it. In this case, I asked my girlfriend Vedanta if she would record this piece of dialogue or this passage that I found, if she could record it in dialogue. And so what I did was I went ahead and I sat down and designed this little bunny character. I really wanted to do something sweet and cute. And so I designed this character. And then I went back to Vedanta and I asked her to record this piece of dialogue. Now, the dialogue is very simple, and it's a change of ideas. It's a change of emotion. That's one of the reasons I liked it so much. And that's one of the things I was talking about. If you go through and find some of these passages, they're really nice because you can find things like that. And the subject of the dialogue is memories. And so the dialogue goes like this. She's thinking and she goes, memories. They warm the inside of your heart, but they also tear you apart. And so there's this change of emotion. There's this idea where she gets up and they're very warm and that makes her heart happy. But then she thinks about it and she also realizes, well, memories can also tear your heart apart. Let me bring you over to TV Paint. And I'm going to play it for you. TV Paint is my animation software. And I just want to play the dialogue. Now, TV Paint is wonderful because I can record dialogue. In this case, I use my phone. I have a digital recorder on my phone. And I can record on that, send it to myself, and then upload it to TV Paint. So here's TV Paint. And you can see right here in the timeline that the dialogue sits right there. You can see the waveform. And I'm able to just listen to it, play it back, and then I can animate to it. So let me do this. I'm going to stretch this timeline out just a little bit. And let me play this back for you. Here it is.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So really quick, I want you to listen to this again and think about the phrasing the way I was talking about earlier. She says, memories, they warm you up from the inside. So there's one idea, and it's very positive. And I could feel it. I pictured it as like just really becoming warm and happy, but they can also tear you apart. And she becomes deflated. That's what I heard. What's very important in good dialogue is really great acting. And in this case, I really pushed Vedanta to really play the contrast between the positive and the negative. Because when you can do that, when you can get that really great acting in the dialogue, it really gives the animator, in this case myself, something to grab onto and to show, to animate. When the dialogue is flat and middle of the road, it's really hard to get if the performance is flat, the animation is going to be flat. And so you want that performance to be as broad and strong as you can possibly make it. So once again, I'm going to play it back again, but listen to the dialogue. And really, it's two ideas, but there's really four poses in this that I think, where she says memories. So there's a pose, and she's thinking. They warm you up from the inside. So she gets even bigger. So there's a second pose, but she sinks a little bit because she's starting to come down. She's thinking about it. They also tear you apart. And she drops down. At least this is what I have in my head. So let me play it for you again and listen.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Memories.
Let's try it again.
They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So if you listen to that, once again, you can feel that memories. Then they warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. So for me, that's how I'm breaking it up. I'm thinking of, and phrasing is not always just one word or one sentence at a time. A lot of times it can be a whole phrase that is a phrase. It could be several sentences that can be a phrase. In this case, because it's such a short piece of dialogue and we're getting that change of emotion, the phrases tend to be shorter. And so in this case, I picture her as this bunny picking this flower. She's picking a flower, she's reminiscing, so she picks it and she says memories. And then she says, oh, they warm you up from the inside. So that flower in my mind is going to represent those memories. And so she hugs it and they warm you up from the inside, but she looks at it again. they also tear you apart. She lets it drop to the ground. So the first thing that I'm going to do at this stage, the very first thing, actually I'm going to jump back to talk to you. The very first thing that I'm going to do is what's called thumbnailing. Now, thumbnailing is extremely, extremely important. I thumbnail every scene that I animate. And this is a very big key in good acting for animation. A lot of people don't like to thumbnail, but it's so vitally important. Not vastly, but it's vastly vitally important. But what thumbnailing does, and what I mean by thumbnailing, I mean doing little sketches, experimenting, trying to find poses, trying to find expressions that best represent what it is that's going to be animated. And so when I listen to dialogue, doing thumbnails enables me to try different attitudes, different poses, and find the one that's going to work best with the rest of the poses that I pick. It's my way of finding the choreography of a shot, okay? And so I'll sit there and work thumbnail after thumbnail after thumbnail, working out how I want this to work. Now, when I'm talking about the phrasing, each of my thumbnails will represent a pose for each phrase. Okay, so this will end up having four drawings for the thumbnails. Let me jump over now and explain and show you what I'm talking about. So here I'm going to come down, and here we are. I'm going to show you this first layer. So these are the thumbnails that I created for this shot. And so now keep in mind, these are the main poses. There's going to be animation that takes you into a pose, animation that connects the poses, and there's going to be secondary animation like ears overlapping or dragging. The hands might move on a different timing. And those are the tricks that I'm going to show you that will keep you from making your animation feel like a robot, just, shifting from one pose to the next pose to the next pose. You have to animate in between the poses. But anyway, in this case, I pictured her as picking this flower. So at the start of the scene, she's actually picking the flower and picking it up and looking at it. And she says memories. And you can see she's happy, she's thinking. And then she says they warm you up from the inside. And she gets big and happy and really warm. And you can really feel that love that she's feeling inside. But then she deflates. You can even look at her ears. Her ears deflate. And she goes, and even the flower is kind of drooping down to the ground. They also tear you apart. And you can even see in this drawing here where I was working really hard to get that slouched attitude in her body, like she's just utterly defeated. So she's happy at first because she's thinking about how great memories are. That's the main pose right there. But then she ends up utterly defeated. And if you look at these two poses, they really are, from an attitude standpoint, they're really opposite of each other. I want that clarity. I want it to be very strong, very clear, very much a different, a change in attitude. That to me that's how you get clarity in your acting for animation. So once again, she picks the flower, she looks at it, memories. There's her attitude. She sits up, gets really happy, pulls it in tight. They warm you from the inside, but then she thinks about it, sinks down, but they also tear you apart. Now, in this next stage, I take each of those sketches, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to place them, basically time them out over the timeline so that they play over each idea. And so it's just going to be very posy, but you're actually going to get a very good sense of how this animation will play out from an emotional standpoint. So let me go ahead and play this.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
Let me play it again.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So one of the things that I do, one of the reasons I do this is I want to see how these drawings play from one to the next. Because not only am I looking for clear attitudes, but I'm looking, just from a graphic standpoint, I want to see change. I want to see a character move up, drop down, build up, slouch down, whatever it might be. I want to be able to see those changes and make sure that I feel like they're strong enough. The other thing too is I just, from a timing standpoint, I want to see how I just want to see how it feels. And this is basically, if you look at how I pose this out from an attitude standpoint, this is basically what storyboard artists think about as well. When you're storyboarding something that has, you know, a change of ideas throughout a series of shots in a scene, you're hitting each of those attitudes in order to tell the story. So this is basically what a storyboard artist would do. Let me play this again.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
Now, there's no connective tissue in there, but you can almost feel the animation, especially where she drops down. You can feel, you know, look at where her ears are. They're all perked up. She's really perky, but then she drops. You feel everything just drop. There's just, she just becomes deflated. And that's just a change of 2 drawings, but you can start to feel that.
They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So now this next stage that I do is really, now I'm more concerned now about finding the connective tissue between these base poses, these main poses. Now I want to find that connective tissue. And what I'm going to focus on at this stage, what I want to focus on is finding it's breaking up the timing, finding the fluidity from pose to pose without it feeling robotic. If I just in between very evenly from each pose to the next pose, it would all just move very robotically. But what I need to do now is, I've already established the emotion, so the emotion is not what I'm worried about now. What I'm worried about now is breaking up some of the actions in order for it to feel natural. Okay, so I've just done a few connective drawings through here, and I'm keeping the drawings quite scribbly. So I haven't really tied them down, but like I said, I've really focused on trying to get just that connective tissue between each of the poses so that the animation feels much more alive, much more natural. That's what I'm looking for. I want believability in my animation. Like I said, I don't want that robotic feel from pose to pose. I want something that's going to feel natural. So as we move from pose to pose, things are going to drag. I'm going to change the timings of different body parts, all that sort of thing, and that's all going to contribute to making it feel more naturalistic. So I'm going to just click through first. As the rabbit comes up, I'm going to turn the sound off really quick. She's going to pick the flower, and she just, and you can see I kind of move her in an arc. She comes back on her haunches and then sits up straight. So there's something natural there. There's just not a straight, you know, just straight up into the pose. Then she delivers her dialogue, and then she starts to come up. Now watch the arms, they drag. So as she starts to come up, her head leads, her shoulders get left behind, but then they start to come up, her hands drag, and look at her ears. Her ears are dragging as well. So these are all things that are going to contribute to making the animation feel more believable and naturalistic. Like I said, I'm just doing a few scribbles to get them in there just to make it feel a little better. Then I want her to drop down, and watch the cheeks. They start to drop. The shoulders are dropping. You can see that. Look at that change with the shoulders dropping. The shoulders drop first. Then the hands follow. Look at the drag on the flower. And once again, I want you to focus on also, not just the animation that I'm doing, but look at the way that I'm doing it. I'm just scribbling this out really fast. I'm not worrying about making beautiful drawings at this point. I'm trying to find that naturalistic movement from attitude to attitude. Look at the drag on the ears. The ears reverse in their arc, and then they drop down and settle into place. And then from there, she just turns and slumps. So let me go ahead and play it now, and you're going to see that even with just those few little scribbles, it adds up and makes it feel a little bit more naturalistic. And I should turn the sound on. Hold on one second. There we go.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
I mean, we don't have any mouth shapes working in there at all. There's no mouth shapes. There's no moving mouth. But you can really feel through her attitudes and the way she's moving from phrase to phrase, it really feels like that dialogue is coming out of her. It's very simple. It's very scribbled out. But once again, this is at this stage, it really helps to really just get this down really fast and move on.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
Now, what's really great about this process is for something like this, for something as short as this, so far, you know, I've probably at this point, I've probably put in about an hour and a half's worth of work, if that. You can get it done very quickly, and you can really get a sense of whether or not this animation is going to work. Once you get to this point and you can tweak it, you can play with it, you can adjust it. Once you get it to where you think it's going to work, then you go through, you start redrawing, you start adding all the other drawings. That's where it's going to take another day, day and a half, maybe 2 days, and then you have an animated scene. But this first stage in figuring out the acting for pose-to-pose animation, this first stage, you can get scribbly, you can move fast, and as long as you work out those thumbnails first, and sometimes it might take a day on the thumbnails because you really want to explore the different possibilities. But once you get those thumbnails picked out, then it's just a matter of getting them timed out on your timeline, shooting it, figuring out if that works or not, adjusting the timing, then very quickly scribbling some of that connective animation. That shouldn't take more than another couple of hours. And then you've got something that you can really get a sense of how that's going to work in the final version. So, like I said, the next stage is going to be that final animation with all of the in-betweens. And you can see all of these are the drawings that I've added. And you can see the drawings are quite a bit more cleaned up now. So let me play this. Now keep in mind, once again, keep in mind that we went through all of these different stages to find the very essence of the pose and then the blocking of the animation, and then it's just a matter of cleaning up and adding the in-between drawings. So here we go. Watch this, and it's a very nice process to get to this point.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart. Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So once again, that's pose-to-pose animation. And what's interesting about that is we as people, when we talk as humans, we generally talk this way. This is how, unless we're really frantic or whatever, we really do act or talk to each other in pose-to-pose animation. As we think of new ideas, we strike new poses. And you might even see me, because I like to talk with my hands, come back and watch through this videotape and just see how I'm talking to you. And you'll find subtle changes in the way that I talk to you from idea to idea. Okay? Now, you can have poses that very subtly just change a little bit, and then have animation within those poses. And so it's really up to you on how broad the dialogue is and that sort of thing. But in this case, I tried to make, without going really over the top with how broad everything was, I wanted to take these poses and make them different enough that we're really going to feel those attitude changes. So I'm going to play it again.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So you can see there's a lot of drawings that are close together because this is a very sensitive scene. There's not a lot of movement in there. Just the changes from pose to pose, and then the extra animation of the overlap of the ears, the drag of the arms, the drag of the flower, that sort of thing. But even little things like this that really help. When she pulls the flower from the ground, when she picks it, I stretch it, and then it pops. Then it pops into place. You can see pop. And then the flower drags a little bit. It's just these little, let me turn that sound off. It's just those little touches that really help sell it. Those little touches. Here she pulls it close first, and then she sits up. And it really stretches, pink, a little bit of dirt falls out, and then it settles into place. And then watch as she goes up. Remember those arms drag, and then the shoulders catch up. The ears drag, and they catch up. You see that? And then I'm just animating dialogue within the pose. You can see her mouth moving, her eyebrows moving as she's talking within that pose. But then she thinks and she drops down. Notice how the head kind of drags. The shoulders drop first. The hands drag a little bit. And then they come down. Look at the flower. The flower really drags. And the ears really drag. It's those little added details that help the transition from pose to pose and make it feel more naturalistic. And then she just gives up and drops really down low into her final pose. So let me play that one more time. Let's turn the sound back on.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
One more time.
Memories. They warm you up from the inside, but they also tear you apart.
So that's my approach to pose animation. I hope you learned something from that, and I want you to try that. Like I said, that's about 2/3 of most shots that I animate in any given movie that I'm working on, because most of the time it's between characters having conversations, emoting, whatever it might be. And then about the other third is action, a character moving along or whatever. Now keep in mind, there's also shots where it's a combination of straight ahead animation. You might have a character that comes in really frantic but then settles down and starts talking, then you go to pose. So you got to be prepared to be able to mix it up. But anyway, that's pose to pose. That's a great way of getting your acting across. Why don't we go ahead and move on to the next video? Okay, so in this next video, I want to talk to you some more about pose to pose animation, but I want to elaborate even more than what we just talked about. So just to review, we covered pose to pose in relation to straight ahead animation. Now remember, straight ahead animation is doing just that. There's a lot of action going on, and I'm doing one drawing after the next drawing, filling out that action, moving straight ahead through whatever the character is doing. Pose to pose animation is actually breaking down the phrasing of dialogue. You listen to that dialogue, break down the phrasing, and create a pose for each phrase, and then connect those poses with connective tissue of animation. I always call it connective tissue. And that animation between each pose is what's going to give fluidity and life to your animation, okay? Now, the last one we just did with the bunny, that was very, very much straight, just pose to pose. We had these 4 poses where she says memories. They warm the inside. They warm your heart from the inside, but they also tear you apart. There's those 4 poses. She basically moved with a little bit of overlap of with some of the body parts and letting the arms drag. Moved from pose to pose, and that was great. Now, there's another kind of pose to pose animation that I do actually more often than what I just showed you with the bunny. And that's pose to pose animation with a fair amount of, a good amount of animation between poses, so that sometimes the line between the 2 poses becomes blurred. But you still start out finding the phrasing, finding the posing, and then the next pass that I do, still in that rough form that we did, like we did with the bunny, I start scribbling out a lot more animation in between so that it really connects everything. And a lot of times you can't really feel where it went from one pose to the next. And that to me is even more believable and lifelike, because there's always some kind of movement happening. And I want to show you. I came up, I thought about this cat character. I found this line of dialogue that I thought was really, really cool. The dialogue is, well, it might seem, how does he, I'll play it for you really quick right now. Let me jump over to here, and I want to play it for you. Once again, this is actually a character that I created, so I recorded it on my phone, brought it over to TV Paint like we did on the bunny, and here's the piece of dialogue.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Let it play
Well,
again.
it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Now, I really like that dialogue. It's, to me, it's got some wisdom in it, and it's got kind of a turn of ideas. So what he's saying is there's two different things happening. He says, well, it does sound plausible enough tonight. It's kind of upbeat. It's exciting. But why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. I love that piece of dialogue. Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. That's a really wise thing to say. It's something my father would have said to me. And so to me, there's these two ideas. Well, it seems great. It seems really cool right now. But if we wait till tomorrow, maybe we'll see it through a little bit more clearly. Maybe we might poke some holes in it. That's wisdom. And so to me, those are the two kind of main ideas. But as the dialogue is being said, I see other poses kind of happening through there. So let's jump back over to the dialogue. And I want to kind of scrub through it and just kind of see
Well,
what we're talking about. First of all, let's jump over to Photoshop. Let's jump over there, and I've created I created a character first. That's the one thing I wanted to talk to you about first. I designed this character, and I just did a quick drawing. But once I had that design, then I went back and started listening to that dialogue, breaking it down, and picturing how that character might act it out. So I want to jump over to Photoshop here and just show you this character. And there we go. There he is. And I love animating big, fat, fluffy types of characters. And so that's what I wanted to do here. And I felt like the voice I was getting in my dialogue, the character I was playing, kind of felt that way. And so I started using this design in my head as I approached the dialogue. So I'm going to jump back over to TV Paint, and let's scrub through that.
well,
So right off the bat, well, there's a little bit of a chuckle. So I want to play that. He's going to take a pose. Well, he's looking at camera. He's gonna kind of chuckle a little bit.
it does sound plausible enough tonight, but it does sound plausible enough tonight, but
Okay, so this is the line that I want to talk about, where he says, "It does sound plausible enough tonight, but..." So he goes, well, and he sits up, he chuckles, and he strikes a pose from his chuckle. So that to me is a pose. And then he says, well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but... So by the time he hits to the word but, he's in another pose. But in between, there's a transitional period. It does sound plausible enough tonight, but... So it's not him striking a pose on the phrase, but moving through the phrase to get to another pose. So that's another way of doing pose-to-pose animation. And not only that, in my mind, the way I picture it, he's not just, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but he's not just turning and looking. I want him nodding. Like he's like, yeah, I agree. It does seem plausible. So it does seem plausible enough tonight, but... So I want that kind of action as he turns. That's the type of thing that I'm talking about. You can still have pose-to-pose animation that's going to have quite a bit of animation in between the poses, and that's the thing that I want to get across here. Once again, I want to go back to what I talked about also in the very first video, which is really putting yourself in the character and listening and playing it honest for yourself. In this case, this is just very simple. He's sitting in place. He's talking to a character off screen. But I want it to feel natural. And how would I play it? And so when I'm playing, I'm tilting my head. That's how I hear it. And I'm playing it to myself. So it does seem plausible enough tonight. But so I have this head tilt and the nod of the head. That's what I feel. That's what, the more I play it, that's how I would just speak it. So I want to make sure that when you're listening to these bits of dialogue, you're really playing it natural for yourself. So anyway, he says, it does seem plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till the morning? Now, when I have him say, why don't we wait till the morning, when he says, why don't we wait till the morning, to me, that's a new idea. So to me, I want him to go from, he's talking to this person and he's saying, it does seem plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till the morning? And I want him to kind of gesture to the morning, like the morning is something off in the distance. Why don't we wait till that? And then the next phrase is, why don't we wait till the common sense, why don't we wait till the common sense of the morning? Let me play this back again, because I'm messing up the dialogue. I want to play it back.
It does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow?
Oh, why don't we wait till tomorrow? Not why don't we wait till the morning? Why don't we wait till tomorrow?
Wait till tomorrow.
So he says, why don't we wait till tomorrow? And he's like, okay, just settle down. To me, in my mind, the subtext is just settle down. Just let's wait till tomorrow. And then he says the most wise part of the whole line, which is,
let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
That to me, that sums up, that's the main idea of the whole line. Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. He actually probably could have gotten away with just saying that, but he builds it up. He has something to say. He's like, yeah, it sounds good tonight, but let's wait for the common sense of the morning. And so because of that, I want the morning to feel like it's off in the distance a little bit, like it's going to take a little bit of time to get there. And while we're getting there, we can rethink things. So he's looking off into the distance, but he's also saying something wise. And why don't we wait until the common sense of the morning? And so he gets this look of wisdom. I want that I want to be portrayed on the screen. So once again, I'm going to jump back. So everything that I just said to you, kind of picture that in your mind as I play this. So he strikes a pose in that first well, and then he's shaking his head. I agree with you. And then he's saying, let's wait till tomorrow. Let's wait till tomorrow. Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So with that in mind, let's jump back over to Photoshop, because that's where I did my thumbnails in this case. So I'm going to turn this off, and here are the thumbnails. I came up with 5 poses. And once again, this is the way I always do my thumbnails, and I want you guys to, if you don't know how to approach thumbnailing, then do it this way, because it really works well. I number them, first of all, my poses, to let me know where I'm going. I hit the pose, I write the dialogue underneath the pose, but I also give myself screen directions. So I might come up with an idea and I've got to write it down, because if I don't, the next day or 2 days later, when I'm actually animating the part where I had the idea, I might forget. So I've gotten into the habit, 30 years ago, I got into the habit of even the most minute screen directions, I'll write them down so that I don't forget. Oftentimes my pages will just be covered in notes so that I don't forget what I'm thinking as far as hitting the animation. So here we go. So it starts out, he's looking over at the character off screen, and he says, well, and here you can see I said add a small chuckle to the animation. He goes, it may seem plausible enough tonight, but so he's going to go from here to here. So you can see there's a big change in this pose. Okay, he's turning to face the character he's talking to. And once again, you can see I did this little arrow to indicate that movement in the pose, and gave myself screen direction. As he moves into the next pose, he's nodding his head. So he is nodding his head as he's delivering this line. It may seem plausible enough tonight, but then after his nodding, he strikes this pose. And then from this pose, he strikes this pose, and as he's doing that, he says, let's wait till the morning. Right there. Or let's wait till tomorrow. You can see even then I was screwing up the line. He says, let's wait till tomorrow. And he's gesturing in my mind to an imaginary tomorrow. He's gesturing off screen, let's wait till tomorrow. And then he goes from this pose to the next one. Let's wait till the common sense of the morning. And remember, I was saying I wanted him to kind of strike this kind of heroic, wise pose at the end. You can see him looking off into the distance. So these are the 5 poses that I came up with, right there. So let's jump back over to TV Paint. We'll listen to the dialogue one more time.
Well, it does
And
sound
let me go back to
plausible enough
Photoshop.
tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Now follow through. Just follow through on
Well,
this. Right here.
it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Let's do it again.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So you can start to feel when you're looking through. You can start to feel when you're looking through. You know, that's what I do. I'll lay out the thumbnails in the way that I just did, and I'll play the dialogue, and just my eye will jump from thumbnail to thumbnail just to get a sense to see if it's working. And if it is, that's when I'll lay out the thumbnails, just like we did with the bunny, and I'm going to go ahead and play that. Now, once again, this is not going to have the connective tissue. This is only going to have the drawings kind of spaced out according to phrasing.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So I got to that point, and when you get there, when you get those poses and you get them phrased out, changing from pose to pose in the right place according to the dialogue, like I said, you can really get a sense if this is going to work or not. Now, in my mind, I'm picturing that animation in between the poses. I just want to make sure that it's so imperative to make sure that the poses you're hitting, these key poses, are hitting at the right place. Then all you have to do is find that connective tissue. In this case, we're going to be doing a lot more connective tissue than what we did on the last one. So let's go to the next phase. I want to go to the next phase now. So I'm going to play this one more time.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
And once again, also, I want to reiterate how loose I'm being at this stage. Don't be afraid to draw loosely. I'm drawing quickly. I want to get it down, and I want to make sure that I'm not using a lot of time at this point. I want to make sure there's going to be plenty of time later to make your drawings pretty. I just want to make sure that I get everything down the right way. So now you can see in here, if you look at the timeline, I have created a lot more drawings to fill out that animation, especially through here. Remember, I was saying, as he's moving from the one pose to the next, he's nodding his head. So remember, what we had here, I'm going to play this. I'm sorry, I keep going back and forth, but I really want to be repetitive on this. Here we go. Just the key poses.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So now the next bit is where it really comes to life. I'm hitting the same poses, but adding that connective tissue. Here we go.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Now you can really feel the difference there. Now I'm keeping it very rough still, very scribbly. There's no drawn dialogue in there, but I'm really just keeping it to the action, and you can really feel now. So here, there's that little chuckle. And here, I went straight ahead. Here's where I went. I just did one drawing after the next. I'm going to turn the sound off. I just went straight ahead and hit the key poses as he moved into that final key pose right there. So he's nodding his head. It may seem plausible enough tonight. It may seem plausible enough tonight, but let's wait. Now, notice also, I don't just move directly from one pose to the next. I'm always trying to find arcs. I'm always trying to find fluidity. In this case, I wanted his head to move into the next pose in an arc. See that? Right there. I wanted it to feel dynamic. And also, look how he lifts his arm. It doesn't just go straight up. He's dragging, and then he places it out in the air. He comes up and then puts it out there. Let's wait till tomorrow. Let's wait till tomorrow. And I also try to, even with my breakdown drawings through here, I try to time things. I listen to the inflection in the dialogue. I listen to the inflection of the delivery and try to get things to move with the inflection, because that's how we tend to talk. So he goes, well, let's wait till tomorrow. Let's wait for the common sense. Right there, let's wait for the common sense. And you can see he's, see? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. Of the morning. So I've broken that up and basically into two phrases. Let's wait for the common sense. Right there, there's a new, that's a breakdown pose of the morning. So this is a secondary pose right here. This would be a sub pose. And so there's our main pose, sub pose, because we're moving through it up into our final main pose. Let me play it again. Let's turn on the sound. This is going to be my theme throughout these lessons, is forgetting to turn the sound back on. Here we go.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Let's play it again.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So to me, what always amazed me as a young animator when I started doing this and started working in this fashion, it was Glenn Keane that really showed me how to work this way. It always amazed me at how much life I could get across in a shot at this stage. I'm just doing the bare minimum of connective tissue, animation, everything. But when you're hitting your key drawings and your breakdown drawings and you get the expression right, you really feel the scene. There's, it's very rough. There's no smooth in-betweens or anything like that, but you really get a sense of what that shot's going to be like and if you're hitting it right or not. At this stage, it should feel nice and natural, and you should be able to tell if this is the direction that you're going to go in. And it's at this stage where I'll do a lot of my nuances. I'll pull drawings out. I'll do new drawings. Sometimes that connective animation won't work, so I'll adjust that. And this is where I'll do a lot of my work, is finding that connective animation to connect those main poses that I've hit. Once I hit that, then it's time to go in and start making those drawings nice and pretty and adding all the in-betweens, adding the dialogue. That's the final, for me, that's always the final, is doing that facial and getting the dialogue right. Because we've already established our expressions, we've already established our emotions, and we've kind of established the choreography of the broad movement of the body. To me, the face is icing on the cake, so I do that last. So why don't we jump over once again, and I want to show you that finished product. So I'm gonna play this again.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
The other thing too I want to mention, like I did on the rabbit animation, is just finding, when I'm finding those 5 key poses, I'm trying to make sure that each one, there's movement across the screen. There's enough difference between each one that I'm giving myself enough room to create entertaining animation in between. That's why, when I'm in here, this pose right here, this pose is so much, there's a big change between those two drawings. And so there's enough room for me to add all this extra animation. So I'm going to play that one more time.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So now that next phase is right here. I'm going to turn this off. I went through, tied down all the drawings, all the key drawings and the breakdowns, and then added the in-betweens. And then I went through and did the dialogue. Now I'm going to go through on another shot later on. I'm going to take you through this phase. We're going to do it in real time. It takes time. It takes a lot of time. But it's something that I want to do with you. I've got a human character that I've animated, and I want to take you through that whole step-by-step process. That's going to be later on, but right now, I just want you to see how we can go from this stage to this stage and add, and then, you know, we're going to go and add those in-betweens and the facial. Here we go.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Here's another one. This is completely off subject. This actually, I could probably do a video on this, and maybe I will. But blinks. Don't forget to have your character blink. Now that I'm talking about it, I'm going to blink every 2 seconds. Blinks are so important. I'm going completely off subject. I'm going to come back. Blinks are so important to keep your character alive and finding the right place to have a character blink. A lot of times we blink between ideas during movements, and I try to get that into my character. So watch the animation for right now, just for the blinks. Watch it for that.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
You can see I threw quite a few blinks in there.
It does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So that's just something I wanted to throw out there. Don't forget to have your character blink. And sometimes, you know, you want to have your character breathing, literally breathing when you can hear breath and that sort of thing. These are all little things that we do that a lot of animators will forget. That's my 2-minute talk on blinks. But let's go back. And you can see now that this is all filled out, it's really not, you don't see each individual 5 poses, but you feel the animation that connects them.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
Okay, so that is animating pose to pose, but adding enough animation in between that you're going to smooth out that kind of moving from one pose to the next pose to the next pose. It blends them together into a piece of animation that feels much more naturalistic and lifelike. Now, keep in mind, like I said, like we did on the bunny, there are times when it will be very straight pose to pose. Like when she says memories, they warm you from the inside, but they also tear you apart. That's very much a pose-to-pose piece of animation. But in this one, I found that I wanted to really blend those poses together, especially through the section where he's nodding. I'm going to play it again.
Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning. Well, it does sound plausible enough tonight, but why don't we wait till tomorrow? Let's wait for the common sense of the morning.
So that is pose-to-pose animation with straight-ahead animation, connecting them together. This is a lot of fun. I'm having a lot of fun with this course. Why don't we go ahead and we'll move on to the next video.